We're all taught that science is this neat, tidy line of progress, right? One genius discovery after another, all building perfectly on top of each other. But if you actually look at the history of science, it's not like that at all. It's messy, it's chaotic, and honestly, it's way more exciting. So let's get into it.
I love this quote from the historian Thomas Kuhn because he just nails it. Textbooks are like tourist brochures. They show you the beautiful, finished monuments, but they totally hide the revolutions, the arguments, and the chaos that it took to build them. This explainer is all about that hidden story and how we might actually learn to engineer those breakthroughs ourselves.
All right, so to understand a revolution, you first have to understand what peace looks like. And in science, that's what Kuhn called normal science. It's what scientists are doing most of the time, and it's all based on a shared map of the world.
And that map is called a paradigm. Now, a paradigm is so much more than just a theory. It's the whole world view. It's the rule book, the accepted tools, the common sense that tells a whole community of scientists what questions are even worth asking and what a good answer looks like. Think about something like Newton's laws. For centuries, that was the paradigm. It was the game everybody was playing.
So if you're a scientist working inside a paradigm, you're not trying to discover a new continent. You're just trying to fill in the details of the map you already have. Kuhn had this brilliant way of putting it. He called it puzzle solving. And think about it, right? When you sit down with a jigsaw puzzle, you trust that there's a solution. You know the final picture is on the box. You're not questioning the puzzle itself. You're just trying to make the pieces fit. That's normal science. So what does that puzzle solving actually look like day to day? Well, it's basically these three activities. Scientists are out there gathering the facts their paradigm says are important. They're in the lab trying to get their experiments to line up just a little bit better with the theory. And they're working to smooth out any little wrinkles or unclear parts of the paradigm. The key thing here is what they're not doing. They are not trying to break the paradigm. They're trying to prove it right.
But what happens when the pieces just don't fit? What happens when you explore a part of the map and it looks nothing like what the map says? Well, that's where the story gets really good. That's when a revolution starts brewing.
Yeah, this is the million-dollar question. You're working away, and you find a result, a puzzle piece, that just makes no sense. It doesn't fit anywhere. In science, we call this an anomaly. At first, you probably think, I messed up the experiment, or you just ignore it. But then it happens again and again. And when that anomaly refuses to go away, it triggers a crisis. The confidence in the puzzle itself starts to crack. The basic rules you thought you knew are now in question. This whole period of confusion and doubt, well, that's the fertile ground where a revolution, a totally new way of seeing the world, can finally take root. And this is the coolest part. A paradigm shift isn't just like adding a new app to your phone. It's like getting a whole new operating system. Kuhn called it a gestalt switch. You know those optical illusions, like the one that's a duck, but if you look at it differently, it's a rabbit? The drawing doesn't change, but your entire perception of it does. That's a paradigm shift. After the shift, scientists are looking at the same data, but they are seeing a completely different universe. And this quote really highlights how messy and, well, how human these changes are. It's not always a clean debate won by logic. People who have spent their entire lives and careers working in the old paradigm have a really hard time letting go. Often, the real change happens when a new generation comes along that just grew up with the new ideas as their normal.
Okay, so Kuhn's model of waiting for a crisis and then having a revolution is an amazing way to understand the history of science. But here's the twist. What if our world today is just too fast, too chaotic for that reactive model? What if crisis isn't a rare event anymore? What if it's just Tuesday?
This brings us to a really powerful concept from Dr. Yogesh Malhotra, who calls our modern reality a wicked environment. Now, wicked here doesn't mean evil. It means complex, tangled, and full of shocking surprises. It's a world where the future doesn't look like the past, and where your old maps and pre-programmed responses are guaranteed to fail.
So that really is the central question for us today. In a world that's constantly changing, can we afford to just sit back and wait for anomalies to pile up until we're forced into a crisis? Or do we need a new playbook, a way to be proactive about making the breakthroughs we need to survive and thrive?
And the answer is yes, we can. Dr. Malhotra's work shows us that it's possible to actually design what he calls inquiring systems. These are frameworks that aren't just for solving puzzles inside the current paradigm. They are designed to constantly challenge the paradigm and create new knowledge on purpose. Let's take a look.
Okay, this table lays it all out. You've got the top two systems, Lockean and Leibnizian.
Their goal is consensus, agreement. They work great in a stable world. They're basically the engine of Kuhn's normal science. But then look at the bottom two. The Kantian system starts to embrace conflict, looking at a problem from multiple competing viewpoints. And the Hegelian system, it goes all in. Its goal is conflict, because it's built for those wicked environments where the only way forward is to create something radically new.
This Hegelian system is a real game changer. Here's how it works. You take a thesis. That's the current, accepted idea. Then you intentionally create its antithesis, the polar opposite, most contradictory idea you can think of, and you smash them together. The goal isn't for one to win. The goal is that the clash, the conflict itself, forces you to a higher level of understanding, a new idea called a synthesis. You're not waiting for a revolution, you're building an engine to create one. Let's make this super concrete with AI. Most of the AI you hear about, like LLMs, is what we can call backward AI. It's basically Lockean. It looks at a mountain of past data to find patterns and predict what's next. It's amazing until the future stops looking like the past. That's when it breaks. Compare that to forward AI, pioneered in Dr. Malhotra's work like QASANs and quantum minds. This is Hegelian AI. It's designed to take conflicting future scenarios and synthesize novel solutions. It doesn't just predict the future, it helps you create it.
So whether we're talking about a Kuhnian revolution that happens to us or a Hegelian synthesis that we create on purpose, there is one constant, there is one critical component that makes it all work. And it's not a computer or an algorithm. It's us. It's the human mind.
This quote is everything. Information isn't knowledge. Data isn't knowledge. You can have all the data in the universe, but it's just a pile of bits until a human being looks at it, interprets it, and decides what it means. Knowledge is an action. It's a human process.
And this is what that process looks like. First, knowledge is alive. It's always changing and growing. So much of it is tacit. It's that gut feeling, that intuition that experts like Newton or Fisher-Black had, that you can't just write down in a textbook. That means our own subjective interpretation is everything. And ultimately, this means that knowledge has a constructive nature. We don't just find it, we build it.
So this is the real secret sauce. Human intuition is the bridge, that gestalt switch, that sudden flash of insight where you see the duck become a rabbit. That's a creative, intuitive leap. Forging a new synthesis out of two opposing ideas, that requires human creativity. It's what Dr. Malhotra calls the merging of the understander and the understood. It's where the magic happens. And that brings us to the most powerful idea of all. By understanding this hidden structure, we can do more than just be spectators to scientific history. We can become architects. We can build the kinds of systems, inquiring systems, that value conflict, that rely on human interpretation, and that actively engineer the creative leaps that we need to solve the world's most wicked problems.
So I'll just leave you with this question. If real, game-changing progress doesn't come from just agreeing with everyone, but from having the courage to challenge what we all think we know, what paradigm are you living in? And how are you going to be the one to challenge it?